The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Get up to $1,000 in deposit match when you sign up at Underdog Fantasy with the promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Friday night, June 20th, around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm also Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to break down the semifinal matches taking place on Saturday in Halle and in London. So we're going to break down all four matches taking place tomorrow. Before we get into that, though, a brief reminder, you can help support the show by liking, subscribing on YouTube. And a reminder, podcast also available on Spotify or Apple. Finally crossed over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so thank you if you have been hitting the subscribe button. If not, then hopefully you eventually do so, but hopefully you enjoy the content either way. Free betting content. That's what we pride ourselves on for SGPN, and that includes tennis. So hopefully you've been enjoying the picks and the breakdowns for the matches and the events. But a reminder, we also have the podcast on Spotify or Apple, so you listen to it audio only. That's fine too. Don't forget to leave a rating and a review. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great Tennis Game Podcast merch with sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs. High quality, different colors, very affordable. Check it out. Definitely recommend getting yourself something there. And a reminder as well that we do have some new content coming out from the College Experience guys, because they are already starting their college football season preview by doing team previews for every single damn team in the FBS. Kobe and Moneyline Mac preview every FBS college football team. You don't want to miss it, so if you want to get in on the football action early, get a head start on the upcoming season, check out the College Experience for their team previews. Anyway, starting off with the recap of what happened in the matches on Friday, getting into the lock and dog. Great episode. Can't really complain at all. We swept the lock and dog, and we won almost everything we actually gave out for the show. Starting off with the lock, we had a nice winner with Kaboli and Zverev over 21.5 games at minus 120. Kaboli had a couple of chances to break back earlier in the first set, did not do so, lost at 6-4, but he was able to hold the serve frequently in the second set. And he was able to eventually force himself into a breaker. Did lose the breaker. Didn't matter to us. Either way, though, a nice job by him. Fought off a couple of break points in the 2-2 game. But besides that, pretty sweat-free, as you saw Zverev face no break points the entire second set as the set coasted to a breaker. So nice win there for the lock as the match landed 23. For the dog, never in doubt, had Leheshka straight sets at plus 135. Was down a break earlier in the first set, broke back immediately, and then coasted from there as he won 7-5, 6-2. So plus 135 was an insane price. Fernley, I think, is a pretty solid player. It was his first ever ATP quarterfinal matchup, and he was getting by, in my opinion, on a pretty easy schedule. But you looked at Leheshka, who was serving very well, he was playing very well, and he dominated. So never in doubt, nice easy win there for the plus 135. Overall, once again, a very good episode for us as we swept the lock and dog, and the overall leans were also pretty good for the sake of the show. Getting into the matches for Friday. So starting off with Medvedev beating Mickelson. We called that. I think that it's a bad matchup for Mickelson in general. Medvedev does what Mickelson does, but he's better at it, and he's also a bit more, I'd say, explosive when it comes to firepower. Mickelson's serve, really not that good for a guy that tall. That's why I've been critical of him in the past, and I do think he's going to have to work on it moving forward. But Medvedev's been great so far in the event. He coasted again, nice easy win for him, and we called it, thought he would win comfortably, so that worked out well. Zverev did beat Kaboli. We thought he would, but we did like the over in the matchup that got there, so that's the most important thing. Nice win for the lock. Did get the next match wrong. We thought Bublik would win, but we gave Makic a puncher's chance to actually win a set and beyond, and we thought that he might cover the spread. Looked good early, as he lost the first set in a breaker, and then unfortunately he kind of unraveled there in the second set, and he ended up getting broken to lose the match at the end. He was down a break already, but still, to ruin any spread potential, a Makic to get broken in the final service game, but nice job by Bublik to get the job done after beating Sinner the day prior. And Khachanov, we thought would beat Etcheverry, thought it'd be closer. It wasn't, but I did think that Etcheverry would have a letdown spot after winning that war against Rublev that he had no business winning if you rewatch the tiebreak. But either way, Khachanov killed him, and he ended up only dropping 5 games in the entire match. Not really any drama in Halle. In fact, every single match ended in straight sets. So really no drama at all, and you ended up seeing a pretty, I'd say, boring day of tennis. The most interesting thing that happened in the card on Friday in Halle was the Zverev food poisoning or the stomach issue, because he broke in the first game of the match, then went down to love 40, then got back to deuce, and then left the court, and apparently puked. So I guess he had some stomach issues, but he got through it, ended up winning. But I wanted to point that out. That was the only interesting thing that really happened on the card. Everything else pretty straightforward. I mean, you're looking at the results. Medvedev was the favorite. Zverev was the favorite, Bublik was the favorite, and Khachanov was the favorite. So the favorites all won in straight sets. Pretty boring. But either way, once again, nice Halle episode for us. For London, you had a bit more drama, still not much, as the favorites won all the matches except for one. Leheshka beat Fernley in straight sets, which we called. So nice win there for the dog. Thought that Nagashima was live to win a set and more, and we did think Draper was going to win. But we picked Draper in 3. That got there, as it ended up resulting in a very entertaining matchup. Draper finally got the break in the middle of that third set, and then he almost blew it, as he actually had to fight off some break points in the final service game. Fought it off, and eventually did win a very nice final point with a solid volley. But either way, point is you saw Draper get the job done as he advanced to the semis. Good for him. Nagashima played well, though, in the event. He's always dangerous on grass because of his serve, and you saw Draper struggle with it at different portions of the matchup. But either way, Draper got the job done like we called in 3. So Alcaraz beat Rinderknech. We did like the over, though, and we did like Rinderknech plus the games. Both got there. Alcaraz team total over as well. Felt disrespectful when you factor in how good the serve was going for Rinderknech and how Alcaraz's form has not been that great so far in the event. He went to a breaker against Walton. He ended up having a 3-set marathon against Munar. Thought that he was not really playing in great form, and Rinderknech's serve, I thought, would do enough to keep one set competitive. Worked out, as even though we called Alcaraz in straight sets, we did call Rinderknech to cover the spread and to really make the match close, and he did. So nice read there for us as well. And for the last match of the card on Friday, we saw Rune lose in 3 to Agut. Really a weird match. In fact, Agut should have won in straight sets because Agut in that 3-setter faced 0 break points. 0. He won 84% of the first serve points, and he won 70% of the second serve points. Rune was really fortunate to actually win a set in the first place, because Agut faced 0 break points. Rune faced 14. Got broken twice. Both of them were in the final set. Rune fought off 6 break points in each of the first 2 sets. So Rune got his ass kicked, despite what the actual scoreline suggests when how it went 3 sets. Agut killed him the entire matchup, and Agut should have won in straight sets. But either way, Rune, after beating McDonald, seemed to just be a step behind. Agut looked great. I've said this many times before. When you look at the veteran players on tour, they can still be dangerous, but usually when there's a day off prior to their matchup, and Agut did have a day off yesterday, so look very sharp in the match today. We'll see how he does tomorrow against Alcaraz with the no days off. Spoiler, probably not that good, but the point is, Agut got the job done 1 in 3. Should have been straight sets, doesn't really matter, as Rune did eventually lose, so we'll see what happens moving forward. But that was the most dramatic match of the day. And it wasn't even that dramatic because he won 6-2 in the final set. But the Draper-Nakashima match was fun. The Rune and Agut match was interesting, even though Agut held every service game easily, facing 0 break points. But once again, not really the most drama-filled card, as 6 of the 8 matches ended in straight sets. We'll move forward, and hopefully the matches on Saturday are a bit more competitive. Now, before we get into the actual breakdown of the matches for Saturday, a brief look at the women's events, just to mention how much more competitive they were compared to the men's. So Berlin was pretty underwhelming for the most part, besides one crazy match. You saw Vondrousova beat Jabeur in straight sets, but Oza got injured again. What else is new? And quit after a set. Saw Samsonova beat Anisimova 6-1, 6-1, and that was really, once again, a collection of 3 ugly matches, but you had a massive choke job in the best match of the day between Sabalenka and Rybakina. Really awful collapse by Rybakina, which I actually watched on Tennis Channel. So Rybakina was up 6-2 in the final set breaker. 6-2. A reminder that she's a former Wimbledon champion. She has been a former top 5 player in the world. And now she's at number 11. And she was actually down a break with Sabalenka serving for the match. And Sabalenka choked. So you figure, okay, this is going to be a good old-fashioned choke-off. Then it was 6-2 in the breaker. And Sabalenka won the final 6 points against Rybakina. She went from up 6-2 to losing 8-6. See you later. And Rybakina lost. So that was a pretty bad choke job. Arguably the worst choke job of the week. The Rublev one was pretty bad because that was just a collection of really poor, unforced errors. But the Rybakina one, 6-2 in the breaker? Really? On grass? You lose the final 6 points to them? That's just disgusting. So a massive choke job by Rybakina there. Wanted to mention that. For a Nottingham, you saw Fernandez lose. who's done nothing since making the U.S. Open final a couple years ago. You saw Ystremska beat her, Lynette beat Towson, Kessler beat Bolter, a good win for her in 3, and you ended up seeing Noskova lose in 3. But the main story was kind of twofold. One was the Bedo's injury, because we know that she's been injury prone her entire career, and it kind of sucks to see her get injured again. But the main one was the Rybakina and Sabalenka match, which was definitely the match of the day, featuring a massive choke job that you probably are not going to see matched anytime soon. 6 separate points in a row you managed to fumble on grass, including 4 match points. Ouch for Rybakina. We'll see how they bounce back, but either way, definitely not the way Rybakina, I'd say, drew up the final 10 minutes of that match. Anyway, time to move on into the actual breakdown of the matches on the men's side for Saturday. Before we get to that, the reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is pulling it up right now, Circa. Because if you still want to join their Ultimate Fansable contest, you can do so because the contest is still going on. They are giving away the Ultimate Fansable experience for a 12-person league in Vegas. To be treated like VIPs for their stay. Go to a ride from the airport, a 5K tab from Stadium Swim, and hotel stay for you and your 11 league mates. You could always get 15% off everything, Circa Properties, with promo code SGP15. Enter the contest, though, for free at sportsgamblingpockets.com with Circa. That's sportsgamblingpockets.com with CIRCA. We're also brought to you by MyBookie. Because MyBookie's a place where you sport. They have the NBA playoffs, the NBA finals. There's one game left. If you want to bet on Game 7, you can also bet on baseball, bet on tennis, bet on PGA, whatever you can think of. MyBookie does have. They're also available in locations. Use crypto for all these payouts. Use Deposit Santo for an account. Use the code SGPN. They get a $110 match up to 1K. Terms and conditions on MyBookie.ag. Promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finish recapping the quarters. Time to move on into the semis. Starting off with London, actually. London is starting at about, pulling up the exact times here. So London's starting at 8 a.m. and Halle is starting at 9 a.m. So London is going to go first. For the first matchup that we're going to talk about, you have Lehecka taking on Draper. Lehecka did us a solid as he won in straight sets again, cashing our dog play. Draper was able to get the job done. Didn't really look that impressive at various points in the match, but he ramped up the serve a bit more in the third set, and he got the job done there against Nakashima. But he has been struggling a bit lately, as he has dropped a set in 2 straight matches, dropped a set to Nakashima, and the previous round did drop a set to Papirin as well, including a final set breaker, which was pretty dicey. So Draper survived by the skin of the margins, but he's been able to once again advance as one of the favorites remaining for the event. Lehecka, though, has been coasting. He's been broken one time the entire event, has not dropped a set yet. In fact, he has not gone to a tiebreak in the entire event. So he's been looking really good. For the head-to-head, it's been close. Faced off 3 times. One time earlier this year in Doha, Draper beat Lehecka in 3 sets. It was a war. He actually lost the first set, came back and won in 3. Faced off in Paris last year, Draper won 7-5, 6-2. Faced off in Adelaide last year, and you saw Draper win the first set and lose in 3. I believe that was the title match in Adelaide last year. So, point is, the head-to-head's been close. You have seen a very even battle where it's currently 2-1 in favor of Draper, but 2 of the 3 matches denied in straight sets, and you have seen a lot of very close battles so far between them. So based on that, looking at the actual line itself, Draper's minus 210. Yes, I know that he is in his home country, but he's been a bit shaky so far in the event. Lehecka's been coasting. He's plus 180. Draper's minus 2.5. You have Lehecka at plus 2.5. For the actual over-under, I see 23.5. The over is at plus 106. Under is minus 126. If you want to go for 22.5, you can find that over at minus 140. Now, for the set spread, Draper to win straight sets is plus 124. Lehecka to win a set is minus 160. The over 2.5 sets is available at around plus 132. Now, for the matchup itself, I think there's value on the dog here for Lehecka. I get Draper's going to be everyone's popular pick because Draper and Alcaraz was a pretty predictable outcome for the actual event going in. However, Lehecka's been great. I think that looking at a guy who's only broken one time in the event, I think is worth something. They could argue the path's been harder for Draper because Draper had to beat Nakashima and Papirin. Having said that, Lehecka, though, did beat Diallo, who ended up winning a title on grass last week, killed in an hour, 6-4, 6-2. Fernley's a pretty lucky draw, I'll admit it, but still. Point is, I don't think the draw was that much easier for Lehecka. I think it was closer. I think it's been a harder ride for Draper, but I do think that you're looking at Lehecka, who has been very good. I'm not going to dismiss his impressive serving stats and his numbers this tournament because of his opponents. I think he's actually been that good. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Now, for the matchup itself, I like the over. I think the fact that each of the meetings have been close. Even the one that Draper won in straight sets had a 7-5 in it. Does suggest you might end up getting a potential war here. Draper dropping a set in 2 straight is pretty telling to me that mentally he will occasionally check out and kind of blink. Saw that at the end of the second set when he got broken in the 5-6 service game. I do think that Lehechka's actually alive to win this. I feel like you're looking at a spot where Draper might pull this off, but I don't think the price is actually fair. I think minus 210 is a massive number for a guy that, based on eye test, has looked vulnerable. And Lehechka has been broken one time. He's not dropped a set yet. I think Lehechka is quite live to win this. I think it might go 3 sets. It might be close. But I think that Lehechka, once again, is dangerous. I think he's a good player. And I do think that his serve is going to be a problem for Draper to deal with at times. Nakashima's a good server as well. I think you're looking at a spot where, once again, Draper can find some openings and maybe find a way to win. But the fact is, with the 2 matches that he's won in 3 sets in the event, he has not covered. He ended up beating Papirin with a 2-game spread, beat Nakashima with a 2-game spread as well, and he's laying 2.5. So I don't really agree with the spread itself at plus money at 2.5. Give me Lehechka for this one. By the way, I see Johnson mentioning that my, audio is lagging, or I'm freezing. Is that the audio or is that the video? Because I noticed the platform that we use for video is, in my opinion, not the best. So my picture might be freezing, but as long as the audio is still intact, hopefully that's good enough. But once again, please let me know if my audio is freezing up as well. Point is, though, for the matchup itself, I see, once again, somebody in the comment section mentioning they does like Lehechka team total over as well. Yeah, I agree. I think Lehechka's been very good. I think he's been in good form, and I do think that it's a pretty competitive matchup. I would say that Draper should be favored, obviously, because he's a top 10 player in the world, and he's also in his home country. Minus 210 feels very disrespectful to Lehechka. I would have it at like minus 150, minus 140. It feels really high for Draper. I see no value on that. Give me the dog here for value. Give me Lehechka to get the job done here. Plus 2.5 games, or even the money line. Plus 180 is appealing. The over 2.5 sets could be interesting. But the fact that Lehechka is minus 160 to win a set, and Draper is minus 210 to win the match, I feel like that math doesn't really check out to me. I think it should be a closer actual money line number. Give me Lehechka for the value. I just don't see much value on a Draper for this one. Moving on to the next matchup. Going to look at the matchup that should be very one-sided. It is Alcaraz against Bautista Agut. Now, Alcaraz is minus 1,100. You have Agut at around 7-1. For the spread, minus 4.5 for Alcaraz, plus 4.5 for Agut, and the over-under is at 21.5. For the set spread, you have Agut to win a set at plus 181. You have Alcaraz to win in straight sets at minus 240. The over 2.5 sets is around plus 222. For team totals, Alcaraz team total over 12.5. He is minus 135. You have the under at plus 105. And for Agut, team total over 8.5, minus 112. The under is a minus 118. Faced off a couple times in the past, and Alcaraz has won both meetings. No shock there, but I will point out that they faced off in 2023 on clay, and Alcaraz did win with a 7-5 in the second set. The first meeting, though, in Indian Wells, Alcaraz killed him 6-2, 6-0. Now, I mentioned this before. I'll say it again. Agut's been very good in the event. However, he's been dropping sets, has dropped a set in each of the first 3 rounds, but there was a day off in between each matchup. Now, not so much. And the problem I have for Agut, like I mentioned before, the older players can play well if they have ample recovery time in between matches. Now, Agut's match against Rune did go 3 sets. Wasn't the longest in terms of time, as it was about 2.5 hours. But the fact is, Agut, over the last couple of months, has been really bad when playing with no days off. Looking at the actual numbers, I'm going to have to pull up myself here. So no matches in this event. No matches recently. In Hamburg, played against Caboli, lost 7-6, 6-0 after playing the day prior. Going back even further, you have Monte Carlo, played back-to-back days, lost to Ruud 6-2, 6-1. In Bucharest, played back-to-back days, lost to Comasanya in 3 sets. I can keep going. Agut is a pretty solid player when he has time to prepare and time to recover. But when he's playing back-to-back days, he usually loses, and it's usually ugly. And Alcaraz is not the guy you want to see. I'll put it that way. Now, Alcaraz has been good, not great in the event. Had a couple of scares. Went to a breaker against Walton, which was a bit of a shock to some. Went to 3 sets, and he was down a break to Munar in the match before the one yesterday. And then yesterday ended up beating Rinderknech with a 7-5 in the first set. So the point is Alcaraz has been winning, has been dominant, but I do think Agut, after serving that well against Rune, I think Alcaraz kills him in this one. I said it before. Agut, I think, has played very well, and I think people might jump on the Agut bandwagon here because he's been that good. But at the same point, I do think Agut, based on the numbers he's had in back-to-back days of play, I think he's going to get killed in this one. I think Agut, after having a three-setter yesterday, now against Alcaraz, Alcaraz might win the event anyway, despite dropping a set or two. But I do think Alcaraz, for the sake of Wimbledon, this should be the final event he plays before Wimbledon. I think there's definitely an incentive for Alcaraz to ramp up the intensity on grass to make sure that he's fully ready for Wimbledon. If he wins the event, he's done before Wimbledon. So I do think Alcaraz will try to push to see how close he can get to his ceiling on grass for comfortability purposes. I think he kills Agut in this one. I think it's ugly. I think Agut, maybe if you are hopeful, can get to 7-5 or 7-6. I don't see it. I think Rune is not a great grass player, and we saw that against McDonald in the previous round. Alcaraz, though, should find a decent amount of returns. I think he should look sharp. Agut has been good, don't get me wrong, and Agut can, once again, somewhat, I'd say, be difficult to handle on grass because it's the best surface because the consistency is very high up there. I think Alcaraz wins comfortably. I think he wins like 6-4, 6-3. I think that Agut is going to have some trouble with the stamina, and I think that if the first serve percentage comes down, Alcaraz might feast on this one. And I see a comment saying that Alcaraz kind of takes it easy on fellow Spaniards. Sometimes I feel like, once again, it's more of a spot for me. I think that people are going to be looking at Agut's number, going, he didn't get broken, he didn't face a break point against Rune. Why is he getting 4.5 games here? Alcaraz has been vulnerable. Alcaraz hasn't really covered this number the entire event. I got to take Agut. I think it's fool's gold. I think that Alcaraz might wake up and decide violence for the match today. Tomorrow. I'm gonna go with Alcaraz comfortably. I think Agut, I mentioned before, go through the numbers when he does not have a day off. They are really bad over the last year. So give me Alcaraz to show no respect to his elders. I think he wins comfortably. Give me Alcaraz in a very lopsided matchup here for the semifinal in London. Moving on to the two matches in Halle. These two look very, very good by comparison. I know that the Draper-Lehechka match looks good. The other one, though, is minus 1,100. These two should be very entertaining. So for the first one, the match of the day, you have Zverev against Medvedev. Now for this one, Zverev is minus 138, Medvedev's plus 118. For the spread, minus 1.5 for Zverev, you have plus 1.5 for Medvedev. The over-under is at 23.5 at minus 110 on both sides. For the set spread, you have Zverev in straight sets at plus 178. You have Medvedev in straight sets at plus 284. The over 2.5 sets is around plus 125 or plus 130. For the head-to-head, Medvedev has kicked his ass over the last couple of years. The head-to-head is currently 8-2 in favor of Medvedev. In fact, they have faced off a couple of times over the last year or two, and Medvedev has been winning. Faced off in the Australian Open last year, and Medvedev lost the first two sets, came back and won in 5. ATP Finals 2023, Medvedev won in straight sets. Beijing, Medvedev straight sets. Cincinnati 2023, Zverev did win, but it went 3 sets. Rome, which was clay, Medvedev won in straight sets. Monte Carlo, Medvedev won in 3 sets. And Indian Wells, Medvedev won in 3 sets. If you want to go back even further, Medvedev once again has been winning. So Medvedev, if you want to go through the numbers, has won 3 straight. He also has won 7 of the last 8 meetings against Zverev. And he's getting plus money. Huh? What? Yeah, I like Medvedev in this one. I understand Medvedev can be a head case, so can Zverev, so it cancels out. Zverev has been fine in the event. He has not been dominant by any means. Medvedev has. Medvedev's been rolling so far in the event. Zverev, though, beat Giron comfortably. Then he went to 3 sets against Sonego. Then he had some stomach problems against Kaboli, and he won 8-6 in the tiebreak in the second set. But he has not really been that dominant, and I do think that Medvedev, based on form, has looked better in the event. Giron, Sonego, and Kaboli, not really great competition. Now, Medvedev has not faced off against great competition either, beating Altmaier, beating Hallis, and beating Mickelson. But he has not had a breaker yet. He's won every match. He's won every match in straight sets. He's been rolling on the courts here in Halle. And I do think if Zverev's not 100%, if he's also going to mentally collapse again, like he always does against Medvedev, minus 138 is such an insane number for Zverev, who can't beat this damn guy. 1-7 in the last 8 meetings, and he's laying 138. Didn't we just do this last week against Fritz in the final in Stuttgart, where he's in his home country? You assume, including myself, that he's going to show up and he's going to use his home crowd advantage to beat the guy that he's had problems beating over the last year or two. What happened? Fritz beat him because he just has his number. I think Medvedev has Zverev's number. I think it's as simple as that. I think the wrong guy is arguably favored. I think 138 is an insane price. Give me Medvedev for the money line. And I do think that for the value itself, I don't see any on Zverev. Maybe it's me based on the opponents, and I understand that Kaboli and Sonego might, in theory, be better than Mickelson and Hallis. They have not really faced off against elite competition, and based on the eye test, Zverev has been vulnerable at times, like he always has. We know that he's never really aggressive. He can always have some questionable shot selection. He might choke in some big spots, but I do think Medvedev has a mental edge over Zverev. And Zverev, when he's against guys who have mental edges against him, doesn't really do well. Saw that against Djokovic in the French Open. Saw it against Fritz in Stuttgart. We've seen it against We've seen it in a couple of matches. Sinner, for example, in the Australian Open final. It just seems like Zverev's getting so much respect that I don't think he's earned at all in this matchup. Give me Medvedev for the value. I think you could argue it should be minus 110 apiece, pure coin flip. Minus 138. I don't think we're watching the same guy. Give me Medvedev for the value of plus money. I don't mind the games, or I don't mind the team total over for Medvedev as well at 12.5. Moving on to the next matchup. You have Khachanov against Bublik. Bublik minus 163. Khachanov is plus 143. For the over-under, I see 23.5 games, minus 110 on both sides. For the spread, minus 2.5 for Bublik, plus 2.5 for Khachanov. The over 2.5 sets is plus 130. For the set spread, Bublik in straight sets, plus 139. Khachanov to win in straight sets is plus 332. Faced off one time before, faced off in Cincinnati a couple years ago, and you ended up seeing Khachanov win in straight sets. That was 5 years ago in 2020. Means nothing, but I'm going to mention it. Now, for the path so far, Bublik was able to beat Muller in straight sets, beat Sinner in 3, and beat Makic in straight sets. For Khachanov, he beat Bergs in straight sets, beat Felix in 3, and killed Echeverry 6-3, 6-2 into the quarters. Now, for the matchup itself, I understand why Bublik's favored. He's great on grass. He beats Sinner. He's been very good. I'm not going to tell you that I think Khachanov is mispriced here. I understand why Bublik is a decent favorite, and beating Sinner is the cherry on top. Having said that, Khachanov been good too. I think he can make one set minimum close. I think that it's going to be a close matchup. I think Bublik does win. If it went 3, I would not be shocked. But I think for the sake of the matchup, I don't mind the over at 23.5 games. I can see an over in straight sets. I can see that happening. Maybe a couple tie breaks. That is a possibility. I could see a 3-setter as well. I don't see much value on Bublik. If you want to go for the spread, minus 1.5 games, minus 135, I don't hate that. But I do think Khachanov can do damage with his forehand. And his serve, if it's on, can be tricky to return. I'll go with the over in this one. I think it'll be close. I think Bublik wins. Might go 3. Couple ways to get the over, though. Give me the over, 23.5 games at minus 110 as a main thought for that one. Anyway, that is going to wrap it up for the show. A reminder, though, that before we get into the actual picks for the lock and dog, a reminder that we're brought to you by our sponsor on Fantasy, because you can try out Underdog for the bonus pick'em. You could also go along with the NBA Finals with their extender bonus. Hopefully you did so, because they're at Game 7. Maximum bonus has been awarded for that. But if you hop in Game 1, longer the series goes, the bigger the bonus gets. So when you sign up for a new account, use the code SGPN to get a special pick and first time visit offer up to 1K in bonus cash on Fantasy promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, because you've heard us talk about Rhythm before. Just dropped a game-changing feature called Power Trends. At Detect Patterns, Rhythm's models have consistently one of a high ROI. Power Trends are updated every day. Exclusive to Rhythm, no touts or noise, just clean data back picks. Download the app, check out Power Trends, start betting smarter. And also, they have a free trial for a week. Go to sportsgamebox.com/rhythm to get your 7-day free trial. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the matches in the semis in Halle and in London. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. Now, I'm sure most of you, during the breakdown, thought I would go with Medvedev moneyline as my dog, which I could do. However, I'm not saying Medvedev is a lock to win anything, because I don't trust him either. So, instead, I'm going to pick what could be a couple of scripts of how to win this. Either Medvedev wins, he loses in a 3-set marathon, or he wins in a 3-set marathon. Give me the Medvedev team total over at 12.5 at minus 122. I think it's a great price. He's won 7 of the last 8 meetings. The one common theme also is that a lot of the matches are close. Medvedev just finds ways to escape and win. Medvedev, though, has gone over this team total in 5 of the last 6 meetings, not including the Grand Slam, because obviously that's cheating with an extra a couple sets there. But Medvedev has been involved in a bunch of close sets with Zverev, usually wins them. But the point is, there has been a 7-5 or 7-6 set in 6 of the last 7 meetings. Medvedev's been great in the event so far, not dropping a set. Zverev's had some stomach problems. He lost a set to Sun ago, had a breaker against Kaboli. He's not been that great so far. Medvedev, though, has been in great form. He's won 7 of 8 matches against Zverev. I think Zverev will find a way to force a breaker in here. Should be a very entertaining matchup. They always are. For the last couple meetings, just for reference, the Australian Open meeting did go to 5 sets. They faced off in the ATP Finals. Medvedev finished with 13. Beijing, Medvedev won in straight sets. Did go under that team total. Cincinnati saw Zverev win in 3. Medvedev, though, finished with 15 games. A lot of the matches do tend to feature a breaker or a 7-5. I think there are a couple ways to get there. Give Medvedev team total over 12.5 at minus 122. I think no matter who wins this matchup, it will not be easy. So give me the team total, which can cash easily, potentially, in a straight set win for Medvedev. So give me the Medvedev team total over as my lock at minus 122. For the dog, give me the Leheshka games. I'll go with the plus 2.5 at around, I think I found a better price, actually, for this one. I did. So let me just quickly change the price here. I found plus 106, which I'll take for the plus 2.5 games. I understand that Draper is in his home country, and I understand that he's a top 5 player in the world. Having said that, Leheshka's been good, and Draper's been vulnerable. Leheshka's won 5 of his first 6 grass matches this season. All 5 wins were in straight sets. He's been rolling in the event so far. Leheshka, though, has not dropped a set yet in the event. Draper has also set in 2 straight matches to Nakashima and to Papyron. So it has not been easy for him in those 2 matches where he dropped a set. He did not cover the spread. And I will point out the 2 of the 3 meetings in the head-to-head have been very close. 2 of the 3 did not end in straight sets. Leheshka, though, did cover the spread in both of those meetings that did not end in straight sets. Couple ways to get there, but Draper's minus 210, massive favorite, and I do think it's too big for him. Leheshka's got firepower. His game translates well to grass. Think he can make this match very competitive and maybe even win. Give me Leheshka plus the games here at 2.5 at plus 106 as my dog. So once again, the play is for the lock and dog. The lock's going to be a Medvedev team total over 12.5 games minus 122. For the dog, I'll go with Leheshka plus 2.5 games at plus 106 and wrap it up for the show. Back once again for the final in Halle and in London. So keep an eye out for that. Till next time, I'm on Twitter Radio. Good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye.